Straw Hut Media.
Hi, I'm Kevin Nealon. Typically I'm a people person and I don't mind being alone, but don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Welcome to Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. I am, of course, Jake Hogan, and you are, of course, you, whoever that may be. And you're alone with me, Jake Hogan. Weird how you completely defied the title of my show. Okay, I guess that's who you are. I have to get used to it. Anyway, this is a show where I talk to interesting people about my problems. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your comments and suggestions and questions for my guests. And so please write to dbawjk@gmail.com and tell me your suggestions. Tell me your questions. What are the deep life questions that you have that you want answers to? I will ask my guests and I will try to answer them myself. I want you to participate because this is about me and you and everybody else growing closer together. Today I have a very interesting person to talk to. His name is Kevin Nealon. He's a writer, he's an actor, comedian, he's an artist, he's an author, he's a father. He's done many, many interesting things. You'll know him from Weeds and Saturday Night Live and many other TV shows and movies and Hans and Franz and what have you. We're going to talk a lot about something that's been on my mind, which is he's got a 16-year-old son. I have a 22-year-old son, and I feel like my 22-year-old son doesn't really know the coolest part of me. He doesn't know when I was young. He doesn't know when I was struggling. He doesn't know that I've experienced things that he's experiencing now. I don't know how much he can imagine me as a young man going through what he's going through. I, of course, can relate very much to what he's going through, and I hope that he can see me as a resource. But in addition to that, I hope he can see the road I traveled and how I got from one place to another and where I am now and the successes I've had and also the failures and all the things that are all wrapped up in there. And it's hard to see your dad as all that. You can only see your dad kind of mostly as the older guy who's there. But I've always tried to imagine my dad through all the stages of his life, and it's helped me. And so maybe Kevin can convince me that I'm somehow cool and that my kid can see the cool somewhere in there. Maybe not. We'll talk about it.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
I have a weird question for you that I thought about on the way in. It's like, Why are there no people doing Kevin Nealon impressions?
Good question. David Duchovny used to do an impression of me.
Okay.
And this was his entire impression.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Hey, man. My son does impressions of me.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a great mimic. He's really, really
okay.
We've been watching Peaky Blinders.
Oh, I love it.
And he's been doing Cillian Murphy the whole time.
Okay.
What you're going to do is you're going to go down out. I can't even do it.
Right.
We're going to pick it up and we're going to bring it back and you're going to like it, and I said, it's almost like he's making a list of things to do. He goes, yeah, it does. But he does all the Peaky Blinder, and he'll pick up little nuances that people I know, friends, and he'll go, he goes, there's a lot. Best picture in the world, whoever the person he's talking about. And, but I haven't seen many people do impressions of me.
What's your son's impression? Is there a go-to impression that he does of you?
It's more the physical things or things that I do, the things, here you are, Dad, coughing, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
But, when I first started out in this business, I used to love impressionists.
In this business?
In the podcast business.
Okay, yes, right, yeah.
I used to love impressionists, like Rich Little and Frank Gorshin.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I should do impressions. And I was good at some of them at the time. But then I thought, wait a minute. Do I want to be doing impressions of other people or do I want them doing impressions of me? And I said, impressions of me.
Wow.
So I lost on both of those things.
You had that skill. You let it go for this.
Yeah. And then nobody did an impression of me. Although, I have been on a little thing. I think it was Family Guy or King of the Hill where it was like for 1 second they it had drawn me. And on Dr. Katz too, they did kind of like an impression of me.
Yeah, Dr. Katz is great.
Yeah.
But Family Guy, that's like an honor to be.
I think it was Family Guy.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
it would make sense. Family Guy is the kind of show that would put you in there.
I mean, if you Google it, maybe it would come up.
And my dad used to work for Rich Little.
Did he really?
Yeah. I mean,
what did he do?
And as a TV writer, so there was a show called The Rich Little Show. So he worked on a show called The Rich Little Show. And the certain part of the show was Rich Little taking suggestions from the audience of imitations that he should do, and then a topic. And of course, it was all pre-done. There was no way that Rich Little could just do any impression of it. They were very, very specific. Ed McMahon,
George Burns,
only old stars, people that no one knew anymore.
Is he still around?
I think he's alive.
Okay,
he's alive. Does that count as around?
Yeah.
Okay, then he's alive. He's alive.
I don't want to badmouth him.
Are we around? Yeah, no, I know. It's fine. I mean, but it was interesting that he's not particularly funny, but very good at impressions.
Yeah.
So you have to be both. That's the trick, I think.
I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and every year they had a show. I want to say Ray Bradbury. Is that like the guy from Star?
Ray Bradbury was a science fiction author.
Okay, that wasn't him. It was something like that name, but they had a vaudeville show that came through Bridgeport every year, and I loved going to it. And they had the Harmonicats playing there, and then they had all kinds of variety, and they always have a comedian or an impressionist. And I saw Frank Gorshin there. He was great. I loved him. And I would see those guys from F Troop. Some of those guys did stand up.
Larry Storch.
Larry Storch did it, and also the captain.
Tucker? Forrest Tucker?
Yeah, Forrest Tucker. It's Forrest Tucker.
I'm 1,000 years old and I know that.
You know all the names.
It's just it's a problem. I stayed home for most of my life watching TV. So I watched every rerun, good or bad. I just watched everything. I brought you here today, Kevin, because I want us to talk about a new subject.
Ooh, okay.
And here's this new subject. It's close to my heart. I have had a decent, interesting life.
Yeah,
right?
Are you kidding me?
I was an actor when I was a kid. I did stand-up comedy. I did things. My kid is now 22 years old.
He's 2 years old or 22?
22.
Okay.
22. 2 years old and going to college. That would be very
that would
good.
be crazy.
That'd be awesome. So he's 22 years old, and he's missed most of the cool stuff I ever did. Like he's not, he was there from the time I was, 40 on.
Yeah.
So like I'm an older dad-ish. So the question I have to you, and you have a kid, is 16?
16.
Yeah. How do you convey to that kid that we were kids? I know kind of some of the stuff that he was going through and is going through. And that, I'm not just a fuddy-duddy dad. I've had life experiences without seeming like a jerk. In other words, you don't want to sort of lay out on the table all the horrible things you've done in front of your kid because you don't want to seem like some kind of a role model. But in other ways, you want to say, I can relate to you and I know how hard this section of your life is and you can come and talk to me. And I have not been able to navigate that at all in my life. All I do is either preach to him, say you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do. I was really a hardline guy on like drinking and drugs.
Yeah.
When he was growing in high school, like there's absolutely no booze and no drugs. You just can't do it. You can't do it. And he said, well, did you do it? Absolutely not. Complete lie. Complete lie.
Yeah.
Of course I did it. But I wanted to be strong for him and say, yes, absolutely. So now, our relationship is based on horrible lies.
Yeah. Well, what you think is cool, he might not think is cool. Otherwise, he'd probably do it.
Maybe.
So now, as far as my wife is really the disciplinarian in our house. She makes sure he takes a shower, goes to bed on time, he's done his homework. Although he's pretty good about all that stuff. And I'm more the playmate. I come home from the road, and Dad, you want to play ping pong? Yeah, let's go. So it's hard for me to discipline him.
But does he come to her or to you if he's got something going on, a problem going on at school? Or with
her.
Yeah.
Her. Because she's kind of taught him that he can talk about anything to her.
Right.
Sex, anything.
Right.
And so he feels that bond with her. And me, it's just like, hey, you want to play ping pong?
Okay. So you've carved off this niche of just, a friend, kind of an acquaintance.
Yeah, like we'll be watching, we'll be watching, say, Breaking Bad or Peaky Blinders. And then she'll start to come into the house, into the room, and my son will put it on pause. Yeah, I go, good idea.
Yeah, she
hates violence.
Yeah. My wife can't see any violent shows at all. It's not even. It's a problem. I have to wait until like 3 a.m. to watch anything good.
I know it, and you have the headphones on.
Terrifying.
Yeah,
it's like
disguise
Yeah, and
So she won't know it's you.
Brown says, like, I think I'm gonna go to bed, and I have to pretend like I'm sad. Like, oh, honey, don't go to bed.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Yes, please,
Yeah.
God, go to bed. I want to see something. I'm watching a show called Murder at the End of the World. It's fantastic, but there's violence and stuff, and even the smallest amount of violence, she would hate.
Oh, I know it. I know it. When somebody trips on QVC, she goes, "Oh, I can't watch this anymore."
That's I don't know why that is, and yet the same person, I don't know if this is true of Susan, but Brown can endlessly watch CNN and see real violence,
Yeah.
nonstop, 24 hours a day, playing over and over on the news.
Yeah. I was hiking with Jonathan Banks, who from Breaking Bad. He played the character Michael,
Sure.
Aaron Trout. And I said, I just started watching Breaking Bad until my son was old enough to watch it. And I would cover his eyes during the sex scenes. And he goes, "What, you cover his eyes during the sex scene? What's sex? There's no sex in that movie. It's the way the world is now. I said, "Well, you're kind of sexy in the thing,
He beats people up in that show.
Does.
He's like an older guy who beats shit out of people.
Yeah. He's got a lot of experience and he's wise. But I'm the same way as you. Like, I'm not that cool with my son, even though, I do stuff, I'm in front of a lot of people doing stand-up and I've got a nice little track record.
Saturday Night Live is cool.
Yeah.
But your kid was not part of that.
No,
Like,
not.
there's a moment of like being coming off Saturday Night Live and everybody saw that show last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like him now, he will go on YouTube to see like a monologue or something
Right.
and he'll tell me about it, and it's like, I've never been on that show. I've never been on, and he never talks about when I was on. I'll show him like a couple of sketches.
Right.
Say, let me just show you when it was really good. Let me show you the sketches.
Right.
And he'll sit down and watch, and they're so long. I'm like, okay, all right, fast forward a little bit, get through this part.
Don't you wish somewhere that at some point he just comes across Hans and Franz and just goes like, "This is fantastic! Oh my God!
Yeah.
This is hysterical."
Well, he has come across them, but
Okay.
there wasn't that follow-up like that.
It's like he might not even recognize who Arnold Schwarzenegger is to
No,
even
right. He
get
wouldn't know.
the basis of the joke.
Yeah, he wouldn't know that, but I'm like you. I've become that goofy dad.
Yeah.
Even though outside of the house I'm cool. I got a good track record and reputation. But when I'm there with him, and even my wife, I'll bend over, pick something up, my crack will be showing, or I'll forget something, or I'll
Right.
park in the neighbor's house down the street because their driveway looks like ours, And it's all of a sudden, "Dad, come on, man, Dad." So what? Come on.
But okay, so we're a source of embarrassment for our kid. Is that a problem?
Oh, you don't know the half of it. They won't come and see my do stand-up.
Really?
Because my son is deathly afraid, as my wife is, that I might say something that's inappropriate. And there's a chance that I might get canceled. So they're horrified.
Do you say inappropriate things in their presence?
I might say something where my wife says, you know what? I have to teach you because you come from an older generation
Right.
and you don't know better. So I'm just going to teach you. And, hopefully you will improve with your inappropriate.
I'm constantly inappropriate in front of my son. Just to show him how it was, to show him how the world used to be. And I said, "You can't say this anymore."
That's right.
But here's a joke that I think is funny and something you can't make this joke now, and you probably shouldn't make this joke for anybody else. But this is what I can pass along to you, is my legacy.
Yeah.
Is my father gave me inappropriate jokes, and I'm going to give you inappropriate jokes, and someday you'll pass along these inappropriate jokes.
Well,
to your
there's
children.
inappropriate jokes, and there's also, like what you can't say now.
Right.
Jokes.
Do you know what you can't say now? Like, are you solid on it?
Everything.
But are you solid on like the line?
No, because there's some things I think are ridiculous. I will, like my wife now, she was here, she'd go, don't. But if you were an impressionist, could you do an impression of, say, a black person or an Indian from India?
Yeah.
Can you do that? Or would that be considered?
I don't know. I think you can't. I think you cannot.
So some impressionist somewhere has lost half of his act.
Yeah. I think you cannot, if you're not
From
that ethnic group, you can't really you're not supposed to be able to make that joke. Some people, I think maybe if you're if you're an Indian impressionist, maybe you could do a black guy. Like, I think honestly, I think maybe
But nothing for the white,
right? No, because
middle-aged white man.
You're already sort of my friends who are South Asian say I'm a brown man.
Yeah.
So they're already in that group, so they can make that impression,
Yeah.
and they can do obviously they could do white guys. I don't know if they could do Latinos. Maybe, I don't know. It's interesting to me. I couldn't. It's not even possible to figure out anything that I could do.
Yeah, well, I'm learning for sure, but I don't know. Do they have this in Europe?
I don't know. I mean,
They don't in Mexico.
I feel bad because I've done nothing my whole life but practice black impressions. That's all I do. And I
Sanford
really,
and Son.
if you could hear my Kevin Hart, oh my God, it's perfect. It's just like, it's like being in a room with him, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I think the wokeness may...
You can't say wokeness anymore, by the way.
Oh,
No.
okay. Well, the
Sleepy people only
the politeness,
Yeah.
the
No, I'm
politeness
kidding.
is in Europe and all. It's I think it's all geographies, but maybe different in an age group. So it's solidified in an age group. People at this point, 30 and under, maybe feel one way, and 30 and over maybe feel a different way.
Yeah. Well, I'm all about sensitivity and, giving respect to people. So, I'm learning.
When you go out and do your stand-up, how do you figure out, well, this is a joke I can say and this is a joke I can't say?
Well, I'm super sensitive about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really get into that unless it's kind of spontaneous on stage.
Right.
Like there was a guy in the front row a couple clubs ago. He was Native American and he came from some tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So we riffed about that for a long time.
Right.
And I was really walking the line.
Right.
Which was kind of fun.
But he was playing along with you.
Oh, yeah, he was playing
So if
along.
he's playing along, you have total permission.
Yeah.
The second he stands up and say, "You son of a bitch!
Yeah.
You ruined my night and you stole my land," and he storms off, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to a museum in Springfield, Missouri, and it was really interesting because that's where a lot of the West was won, and there was a lot of Wild Bill Hickok, I think, was in a gunfight in the square in that town, or one of those guys. And I go into the museum, and they talk about all the Native Americans that had to leave their land because of the white man, and they had to walk for like 2,000 miles or something to create a new, to be on Native American land where they're allowed to be.
How long?
How long did they walk?
Yeah.
It's probably like 800 miles.
Jesus Christ.
No, it was far.
Yeah.
They had to work. And I remember reading, geez, that's kind of far.
That's far. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, the Indians, the Native Americans, were treated incredibly poorly by the white guys who came in and just took everything. Yeah, not good. Not good.
Right.
I'm down with that. The question then comes back to me is like, how do we fix it? How do we make it better? And I don't know if the casinos are the answer. I mean,
no. But it's happened for centuries. People take stuff. In Europe, people take land.
it happens everywhere.
It just happens, and it's wrong, but it happens.
Right. I'm not going back to Ukraine. Well, I'm not going back to Ukraine, period. But the pogroms knocked my people off their land, and it's like we don't fight for it. I get a shitty place to fight for it, but if we fought for our lands, it's gone. So what do you do?
Do you think this world would be a better place if nobody took land from anybody?
Yeah.
The Native Americans would all be here, and it wouldn't be all America. It'd be Mexico and part.
I think the innovations and things that had happened here might have happened anyway. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think turmoil creates some kind of anxiety, and the anxiety sort of creates creativity, and that stuff happens. But who knows? Maybe this, you mentioned Star Trek earlier. In a Star Trekian world where everybody was peaceful, maybe innovation happens just as much or more.
Maybe
they feel more comfortable being creative and fabulous. So I don't know. I mean,
let me just go back for a minute. You were a child actor?
Yeah.
Or child star?
No, an actor. Certainly.
And what would you do?
I was in a few different things. I was on, when I was a really little kid, when I was 5 years old, I was in the Dean Martin show, an extra on the Dean Martin show when he sang some Christmas songs. I was in the Bob Newhart show, the old Bob Newhart show.
Yeah.
I was in also Newhart. I did a show called The Bronx Zoo, where I was a kid in school. I did
Get
a
around.
bunch of stuff. Yeah, terrible. I was not good. I
You
was
study
also,
acting?
Yeah.
As a child?
No, in college. But I was a
Okay.
terrible actor and worse auditioner. Just the worst auditioner.
Who's a good auditioner?
Well, Richard Kind was in here telling me how great he is in auditioning. He just
Really?
says, you come in with your ego and you make a choice. You make a choice and you do it and then you get the part. It's like, that's not everybody's experience, Richard. It's like,
No.
because they don't make a choice and they don't believe in themselves.
You're a good impressionist.
Yeah.
I think the dismount is the most important from the audition. You
Yeah.
go into the room,
Yeah.
you do your lines, you say hello, you show them they're charming, and then you leave. You don't stay too long. You leave and don't walk into the closet on the way out.
Right.
Remember which door is the exit.
My thing is, I go in the room and I know somebody who's on the other side of the
Yeah.
desk. And I was like, I got this, right? I don't have to do this. Like, that's my whole hope.
Yeah,
Don't make
yeah.
me audition. Just give me the part. Just give me the part. And of course, you have to audition. And that's the bad part. And when they say no, it's not true for you anymore, but it's absolutely true for me. When I was auditioning, there were lines of people who looked exactly like me, like clones of me. Fat guys in blue button-down shirts and baseball caps and beards. Like, it would just be clones of everybody. And so they had a type they were looking for.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get it, it was just, well, we just don't like you.
We decided not to go that way.
Right. You clearly you're going that way, just not with me.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
wrong with me? And so it was really personal. I took it very personally.
Yeah. Well, you didn't make a choice. That was the problem.
I took a choice. I did make a choice. Take it personally. Be hurt by it. This whole experience.
Yeah.
That was my choice. So I don't know. But back to my kid. Like I was on The Simpsons when The Simpsons was skyrocketing. The world knew The Simpsons. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
My son has known none of that. And I'm just his old fat dad sitting at home, like, and it's like, shouldn't I try to explain to him that I had this moment in time and you're going to have it too, kid, and like, or is that just war stories that's just going to bore the shit out of him, and just let him have his life and don't push my history on him.
Yeah, I think in hindsight he'll probably appreciate that more.
Yeah.
From you.
Did your dad explain his history to you, and did you take lessons from that?
Oh yeah. My dad was. I respected him so much, and he was such a role model for me. He was a helicopter engineer. He designed helicopters and helped make them, and knew all about.
Did he fly them?
Aerodynamics. He didn't fly them. Okay. He told me they were too dangerous to fly him because it's always vibrating and the bolts are loosening. They have to always tighten them like every 5 minutes. I'm going to go on the back and tighten it. You know, he wasn't understanding.
Was he afraid to fly on helicopters as well?
He never said that, but he probably was.
Oh, that's so disturbing to me.
Yeah.
The guys who make it.
That's like writing a speach for somebody and thinking, oh, this is going to bomb.
Yeah, worse. It's like building a roller coaster. It's like, nah, maybe not so safe.
Yeah.
You're going to test drive it? Oh, I'm not going to test drive. But yeah, that's okay. But he knew how to make helicopters, and he was very smart about it.
He knew about helicopters.
Yeah.
He was on the Black Hawk program. You know,
Okay.
he helped design that, and we went back to the factory. And I used to work at this factory too for 2 years, helicopter factory. I repaired helicopter blades and made new ones.
Something happened on the assembly line, and the Black Hawks were being stopped. Did people actually say Black Hawk down at all, or did they just leave that?
That hadn't happened yet.
Okay.
But I mean, I would repair blades that are all shot up.
Yeah. Oh,
That's how long it was from Civil War.
you can take old blades and make them new?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you repair them.
I didn't know they had helicopters in the Civil War. I had no idea.
Oh, no, they did. And the reenactments. They weren't good reenactors.
No, it's terrible.
Have you been to one of those reenactments?
I've never, only a source of TV comedy have I seen Civil War reenactors.
I'm just wondering how, someone says there's a corporal.
Yeah.
They're a corporal in the reenactment. Who promotes them? Who made them a corporal?
In the reenactment army? I think, having heard these people talk, that they study individual soldiers.
They do?
And they try to be the actual soldiers who are at that battle.
Wow.
And they find their history and they try to be that person. Now, sometimes they can trade roles, and sometimes you're the general and sometimes you're the private or whatever, and sometimes the people on the south and sometimes people on the north switch sides.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's like trading a player.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but it's a history thing, and it's a social thing, and it's cosplay. It's all that combined.
Yeah, I mean, if you could give yourself your own rank,
Yeah.
Everybody would be a general, right?
Absolutely. I, as far as my sexual fantasy life, I dress to Civil War reenactment with my wife. Yeah.
I would like to go to a Civil War reenactment battlefield with my metal detector.
Yeah.
And I bet you'd find like credit cards and keys.
You don't want to hear about my little round top with my wife? No? Okay, that's fine.
Well, I don't want to visualize that.
Exactly. You might find old bullets, right? Or coins or something if you had a metal detector. But I mean, hasn't like Gettysburg been gone over a gazillion times? Was there anything left to find?
Maybe they haven't gone down deep enough. Do you know what I mean?
I guess so.
How does that happen? How do they find villages like in Rome that are way down below?
Yeah.
Is it because the earth just kept piling up and
the
more
combination of that, I think if you wait long enough, you know how dust accumulates in your house. Eventually it goes, but also people decide to build cities where cities were, and they do the minimal amount of work. So they'll smash just enough and fill in just enough to make a flat surface. And if that's on top of somebody's old house, that's fine.
Right.
So then there's, layers and layers of that. If you go to a place like Paris or London, there's just layers.
They discover
of cities.
these moats and stuff.
Yeah, and there's cities underneath the cities.
Yeah.
There's cities underneath the cities.
There's cities that go down to the core of the earth, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And it gets hotter and harder as you get down there. There's more beaches in those cities.
There was a show, Night Stalker, in the end. Darren McGavin.
I remember that.
And I think they did a show in Seattle. And in Seattle, I think it was Seattle, there's a city underneath Seattle. There's a secret city underneath Seattle. And the Night Stalker went down there and I said, holy shit, there's a city under the city. And I've always thought that's cool. There's a city under the city. There's no city under the city. Los Angeles is so new and boring that underneath Los Angeles is just nothing.
My son and I watched this animated show called Arcane.
Okay.
And it's like the top city is really organized and civilized, but the bottom city is everybody is like hustling and struggling to get through.
Sure.
And they go back and forth. It's pretty good.
People traverse. They're socially mobile enough to go from bottom city to top city.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good move.
There's a show called Expanse that's kind of the same thing, where people live in a cloud city, and then people live, worker people live in a shitty planet city.
And how many cities are below that cloud city that they built in that cloud?
Just one. It's the cloud city. There's the cloud city, a middle city, and then the low city. Okay. So there's three, because the writers can only handle writing three cities. Yeah. You can't handle writing that many. You can't cast it. What's happening in City 12? That's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Yeah, I can't. As a producer, I got to put my producer hat on. Just three cities. That's all I can do.
How many producer hats do you have at home?
I have 3 producer hats.
You do?
Yes. Broadcast, cable, and streaming. Those are my 3 producer hats. Nice. I had a film producer hat, but it got lost.
Okay.
People don't use it anymore. Exactly. What does your kid think he's going to do? What is he aiming at? What does he feel like?
That is his least favorite question. When my friends who are adults ask him that.
Right.
What do you want to be? Where are you going to school?
Right.
He's got a general idea, but he has to make up stuff sometimes.
Right.
But he's looking at schools now. He's a junior, so he's not really overwhelming himself with schools. But we've gone to a few around here and some others. But I think like I said, he's a great impressionist, but he doesn't want to be in show business.
He doesn't want to go to
He
impression
wants to
school?
make films. He wants to make films.
Okay. Does he want to go to film school?
Yeah.
Okay.
He does right now at this
Huge
point.
mistake. Huge mistake.
Right?
I don't know.
But also business.
I teach at film school. I teach at USC Film School.
Do you? That's where he wants to go.
One of the best film schools in the country. I teach there. And it's great. And you learn a lot. But it's not, you don't learn more there than actually writing and making movies on your own. Yeah. With your phone and your friends.
Really?
I don't think you learn more there. I think there's it's good to have a reason to write a screenplay because you're going to get a grade. That's helpful. Yeah. And it's good to have a community of people to share it with who are also interested in movies. But most people who make movies didn't go to film school. They just made movies.
It seems to me the best way is to do that and also to get an internship with a big director or something.
Yes. Get coffee for somebody and then learn. I did that.
Did you really?
Yeah. I was a production assistant for many years. I did it for Gary Shandling, our mutual friend Gary Shandling. Yeah, I did. I was a runner, and I used to get Gary his yogurt. You've seen Gary eat yogurt?
Yes.
Oh, it's not pretty.
No.
There's a lot of lips and yogurt going on.
Yeah.
And I would get Gary his yogurt, and he would give me life lessons about comedy and all this kind of stuff. It was fantastic. Then I wrote a script for It's Gary Shandling's show with my partner Wally Wolodarski, and we gave it to everybody there, and they loved it. And Gary couldn't see his way past the guy who gives me my yogurt shouldn't be writing my show.
Yeah.
I can't handle both those facts at the same time.
Well, I heard he liked to rewrite everything anyway.
Oh, he did.
You know, for Larry Sanders, and
he did.
I don't think anybody recognized their script that they wrote.
They didn't, but and he was so smart and brilliant and stuff. And eventually, he would throw out a script, and eventually, the good stuff of that script would come back into the script. He would remember everything.
Yeah,
and it would come back.
He had a penchant of just driving himself crazy.
Yes,
about getting things just right or how he wanted them. He wasn't sure how he wanted it, and whenever I saw that somebody had won an Emmy for that show, I thought, well, they didn't really write that episode. It was Gary.
That's true.
Yeah, but you talk about.
But that's true of every show.
That is true.
Everybody's won an Emmy for writing a thing. I did. I won an Emmy for writing a Frasier, and I thanked the 45 people who actually wrote the show. I said, thank you on behalf of all these people. And it was true. It's a group effort. It's a community that writes it. So, and Gary, Gary was the guy. He was a writer, but also an actor. So he was the last word of all that stuff.
Yeah.
I did have this experience with Gary Shandling where I was in Hawaii with my girlfriend, and Gary was also in Hawaii with his girl, with Linda. And he said, Jay, let's hang out a little bit. So, okay, we hung out a little bit, and he kept calling me. I was like on a romantic trip with my girlfriend. He kept calling me to try to hang out with him nonstop to the thing. And then I did for a little while. And one point we're sitting watching the sunset.
You were getting him yogurts and stuff and coffee?
No, I was just sitting talking with him. And I had been a writer by then because I could afford a trip to Hawaii. And we were watching the sunset, and he said, yeah, sunsets in Hawaii are the best. This one's not great. It's like he was still looking for the best sunset. He said he wanted the best view and the best sunset and the best thing, and never seemed happy or satisfied at ever finding it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, that was him all the way with everything. But when he says it's the best sunset ever in Hawaii, does he know that's the same sun setting everywhere?
He knows. I just think it's everything around it. Everything around it.
You know where the best sunsets are? Where it's the most smoggy.
It's
what I mean?
True. Yeah.
And
where there's
all
filth in the air. The nice, beautiful orange cast that happens. That's
beautiful,
gorgeous.
Man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. The best sunsets are when you're in Hawaii and your girlfriend's in the hotel room waiting for you, and you're out there with a guy who used to be a runner getting you yogurt. Yeah, those are the best sunsets.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what right. Gary. I miss him a lot. Obviously, you were so great at his memorial, and do you think about Gary a lot?
Every day, all the time. And I take to heart a lot of it. He was like a mentor to me, so I take to heart a lot of the things that he taught me about stand-up. One of them most recently, and it's funny, I just bought a book on creative origins or something, where he talks about being creative. Yeah, creative. And there was a phrase in there that he used to say all the time. It's to always be open and present on stage. Mm-hmm. And I kind of keep that with me the whole time. And if I'm doing stand-up and something gets a good laugh, I'll think, I wonder if Gary's watching this.
Oh, that's great.
Or I'll remember doing a joke I did with him that I came up with, and I'll think of him. Yeah. At the time.
Gary was always trying to work comedy, but also work at life, right? And we be more authentic and be more present and be more zen and not care about results and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, very much caring about results, and at the same time, not really being present.
Yeah. He was always chasing it and trying to figure out life and, what the meaning is and, what he should be doing and what's the, it was a difficult, I think, struggle for him, but he's so creative and smart.
Yeah, he's very, very smart. One of the things I learned from him is not to judge yourself, to just try to do the best work regardless of necessarily the result. Yeah. And I truly believe that. The other thing is, and it's true for you too, is part of being a stand-up comedian is not just telling jokes. It's vibing the room. It's being a presence in the room, right? And if you can manage to have a good time, the audience will have a good time watching you have a good time.
Exactly. They want to see that confidence coming from you. You're like the captain of the boat.
Right.
And if you look a little nervous, then they get a little nervous and they're not ready to laugh.
Exactly.
You know, or it's a courtesy laugh.
It's why Andy Kindler. It's horrifying watching Andy work because Andy's so nervous all the time and having.
He gets angry at the crowd.
He's angry at the crowd. They're not laughing. He's angry at himself.
Yeah.
But that's a different kind of show.
Yeah, it is. Without Andy Kindler and people like that, it wouldn't be that exciting.
Yeah. No, I mean, Andy is. That's one of those. Andy is his whole act is like when Johnny Carson's joke bombed, and Johnny Carson laughed at his own bombing joke. I noticed this weekend do you ever watch Saturday Night Live still? Did you watch?
No, not really. Like I said, my son likes to watch some clips on YouTube. He'll show it to me if he likes it. But if I heard, if something was good on there, that's a great thing about YouTube. You don't have to watch the whole show.
This week's show, Weekend Update, at least 6 jokes bombed. Like really no laugh. And I want to discuss that with you because you did Weekend Update for years.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like to have a joke bomb on there, though.
I mean, it was like Michael Che and Colin Jost were they read the news, and they don't know what to do with themselves when it bombs. Like, obviously, if a joke got to the air show, it worked in the room, it worked in rehearsals, it worked at dress rehearsal.
Not necessarily. It's just that you can't cut them all.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you have to try to sell it more.
Okay.
When you come to it.
So somebody said, I can make this work. I can make this joke work.
Or at least have a save for it. A silly save.
Because the look on their faces sort of say like, I have so missed this one. Like I really thought this would work and it's not working and I've totally misjudged this moment.
Well, I'll see them when the joke doesn't hit. They'll kind of laugh at each other and go, wow, that was bad.
But I mean, it's one of those things where I wasn't enjoying them enjoying their failure.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. You have a very limited time here. Give me some good jokes. Give me some of the good jokes that and normally Weekend Update is usually filled with a bunch of really good jokes.
Yeah.
What was your process when you did the update?
The problem with doing the update is having good writers.
Yeah.
And nobody really wanted to write when I took over because they wanted to write something that was memorable, like a sketch or a character that people would be talking about the next day. Nobody very much would be talking about a joke that Weekend Update had said, So in order to get the writers to write, Lorne Michaels on the 17th floor of the writers' wing, he created a buffet in the morning. He had a caterer come in, hot breakfast, bacon and eggs, everything. And then he put all the newspapers on the big writer's table and AP photos because there was no Google back then. It was the 1900s. And he and the only people that came to write would be Al Franken, some of the new writers who weren't that good.
Right.
And Norm Macdonald would come up just to read the paper and have breakfast.
Yeah.
And that was it. So I would be paying comedy writers out here $50 a joke if they'd fax me a joke. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that was and also, all the other talk show hosts throughout the week were doing all the jokes. They were hitting all the topics.
Right.
So you really couldn't start writing until Friday night after 11:30. And then you wake up Saturday morning and you go through all the papers. And so that was the writing process for me. That was the whole process.
Wow, it sounds
and I was also
stranded.
doing sketches too.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, Dennis, he was great, but he was just doing Weekend Update mostly.
Right.
And then I was still doing sketches. So it was hard to kind of keep track of everything.
Right. So, but it was basically you were producing that segment. That was your thing. Like you had to call writers from the West Coast to make jokes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now I had always thought, and maybe this is new, that they had like update people that now have to write update. Like it's an update crew. And
that eventually happened. Like Jim Downey, I think, kind of helped Norm Macdonald.
Right.
He worked with him a lot.
Yeah.
And I forget his name. He was from the original show. He always did the Weekend Update. And
Chevy Chase?
No.
he was from the original show.
He was like the producer of the segment of Weekend Update, this guy. And I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. But he would have a stack of pictures and we go through the jokes beforehand and we read them. And if I didn't like when I go pass or something, no. And then he would write too. He would write some of the jokes.
Okay.
So then when I go pass, he goes, I knew it was his. He goes, have you seen the picture? Have you seen the picture that goes with it?
Sure.
And then I would do the rehearsal, and we do like 20 jokes, and then I know that some weren't hit, and we meet in between the shows real quickly because I always had to meet with Lauren for the sketches, and I would say, let's cut this one, let's cut this one, let's cut this one, and then I do the weekend update. And the next morning, I'm laying in bed going over it all. I think, wait a minute, I told him to cut that joke.
He kept it in.
He kept it in because it's probably his. You know.
So, and it's on the monitor in front of you. You can't skip it.
That's right.
There's a graphics guy who knows that things happen, so you got to do the joke.
Yeah.
Did it ever come to pass that the joke that you wanted to cut got read and it's like didn't do so bad?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't really remember.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to think what I would do if a joke bombed. I think it'd be something silly, like you look up to the audience and go, really? Really? Have you seen the picture?
Great. You know, I don't remember you or Norm spending a lot of time with dealing with the audience not reacting. Like, it seemed like, okay, I said it. There it was. On to the next.
Well, I like Chevy Chase, the way he did it.
Yeah.
So I was doing it more like a real newscaster. I wasn't like doing Colin Jost or Michael Che or any of those people after me, where there was more of their personality.
Right.
I was just doing more of the dry newscaster kind of guy. So if a joke bombed, I would just go through do the next one,
shuffle the papers.
Yeah.
I mean that's the bit. Chevy Chase was a pretend newscaster.
Right.
The fake news. Saturday Night Live is such a huge thing in my life. Monty Python, Saturday Night Live, maybe. Yeah. There are a few things that are that core to what I think is funny. So it's when you got to Saturday Night Live, was it that way for you? Was that like, holy shit, here I am?
Well, Jay, I'll tell you, it happened so quickly. I never even expected I would ever get on that show. People ask me now, they say, how did you get on Saturday Night Live? Although they phrase it more like this: how did you get on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. I just asked it. I think.
So
how did you get on Saturday Night Live?
I was lucky, first of all, because I don't do characters or accents or mimics because I don't want to say something inappropriate. But Dana was a very good character actor. He could do sketches and impressions and mimic people, so he definitely deserved to be on that show. And I was happy for him. He went off. We were sharing a house in the Hollywood Hills for a little bit, and he went off to New York, and I couldn't believe he was on that show. I was so excited for him. And so 2 weeks after he's gone, I get a call from him. He says, "Kev, I'm out at Lorne Michael's house in Long Island. I'm in the back bedroom. Guess who's in the kitchen? Bill Murray." I'm like, "No way." He goes, "Yeah." Anyway, Lorne was looking for one more cast member. I told him about you, and he might want to see your audition tape. I'm like, Bill Murray's in the kitchen? You know what I mean? I wasn't even buying into that stuff because I knew I would never get on there because I don't do characters or impressions or accents. I'm just a stand-up.
Right.
A really, really good stand-up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I sent him my audition tape, and 2 weeks later, another call from Dana. Kev, I'm back at Lorne Michael's house. I'm in the back bedroom. This is in the kitchen. Steve Martin. No. Yeah. Anyway, good news. Lauren's going to fly you in for an audition. I'm like, Steve Martin's in the kitchen? So anyway, I fly in, I do my own little audition. I don't even remember what it was, but it's not like it is lately where you have to get up and do 3 characters. Right. Because I think Lauren at the time was looking for a
But I think there's a spot for a stand-up comedian, like Pete Davidson, or like there was a spot for a guy who didn't do characters. He's just a stand-up.
Well, I was talking to Al Franken. I said, Al, I think I was more the straight guy on SNL. He goes, no, you were the attitude guy. You played attitude better than anybody. And so that kind of made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I didn't think you were a straight guy. I thought you were an actor. Right. You seemed like an actor.
Yeah, I was an actor.
And
but when I knew I was ready to be done with that show after 9 years, I remember I was going out and doing sketches with food in my mouth from craft service tables still. I was picking my teeth with my tongue.
Yeah.
And my friends were in my dressing room with a blender making margaritas and watching something entirely different on the TV in there.
Right.
I said, well, maybe I've run my course.
Your concentration level was low.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess I always wonder what it is that makes people want. I mean, other than it's a tough place to be for a long time sometimes, but time to leave. Like if you're Fred Armisen or you're somebody like, I'm not sure what's gonna come next.
Well, I knew what was coming next because I was doing a pilot with DreamWorks. It was their first pilot called Champs with Timothy Busfield and a couple other guys, and it was
Huge hit show.
It was highly touted. It was
Okay,
highly
yeah.
touted.
Right.
You know, the commercials were costing a lot of money for it.
Right.
And everybody, you know, was excited about it. And it lasted like maybe 4 episodes.
Right.
But I did have something to go to.
All right. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was
And then-
sinking ship, but
Right. You can hang out with Timothy Busfield.
yeah,
That's good.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, people like, you know, Kenan Thompson, even when he left, he never doesn't leave. He stays there. And I kind of get it. Like, some people think, well, I'm good at sketch comedy and I will never find another home to do sketch comedy like this. And I'm going to stay until they rip me away.
Yeah. Well, it was the same with Daryl Hammond.
Yeah.
He was there for like maybe 20 years,
Yeah.
right? Kept coming back. Wasn't really part of the cast, I guess, after a while. But again, I was never a sketch player. I didn't
Right.
do the Groundlings. In hindsight, I wish I'd been a member of the Groundlings, because then I'd come up with characters, have
Right.
characters. But I really was. I was just a stand-up.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of adjust and adapt and kind of learn how to do characters and sketch work. And just living in New York is a great foundation for that, because you see so many crazy people. And
Yeah.
you know.
People say, forget about it.
Forget about
There's
it.
a guy, should be a character, the forget about it guy.
Yeah.
If I was there, my first character would be the forget about it guy.
There was a character I did that Jim Downey, the head writer, loved, and Al Franken loved it, and it never got on. But it was based on a guy I know out here, and he was more of a joke writer, and he was always selling jokes. And he would say, Kevin, I got a joke for you here. Step into my showcase over here. And he'd bring me into the bar area. He goes, and he'd tell me the joke. And he goes, that's funny, right? You like that? That's funny, right? So I was the character. That's
Right.
funny, isn't it? You like that joke, right? It's a funny joke. Yeah. That's $35.
Selling you the joke after you've been told that maybe laugh, maybe didn't laugh. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's a good.
That's funny.
Yeah. The Groundlings. Anything is a character. You can choose to make anything a character. Not anymore. Like, you have to be within the certain lines of stuff. But any small phrase, any point of view, you know, that, and I think that probably, you know, works. It's hard to make that into a sketches, though. That makes sense. Not every character can make a sketch.
Right.
So-
And I also learned that sketches should not have endings on SNL.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think sketches could have endings.
I wrote an ending for a sketch when I first got there.
Yeah.
And Lauren went, okay, so I see. So the guy at the end did that, and that's why that happened.
He
Okay.
shamed you.
And I never read another ending again.
Shamed you.
Yeah.
You know what? Screw that. I think endings are hard. Good endings are hard. If you have an
Yeah.
ending, it's fantastic.
That's like when you see these finales of these series like
Yeah.
Friends or Seinfeld.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure to come
Yeah.
up with a good final episode.
Endings are hard of everything. And
Even relationships.
No, that's hard too. My friend, Christopher Lloyd, who is not the actor Christopher Lloyd, but the writer Chris Lloyd,
Yeah.
who did Frasier, said, "I will trade you 10,000 good beginnings for one good ending."
Didn't you do
Like, yeah.
Taxi too?
He worked
Or
on.
Cheers?
He may have worked. I think he worked on Cheers, but his dad, David Lloyd, worked on Taxi and Cheers. But he worked on like Golden Girls and Frasier and Modern Family, and
Yeah.
he's younger than his dad. His dad was one of the greatest writers in the history of time.
Are you saying he's
And
younger than his dad?
he's younger than his dad. His dad was like, he wrote Chuckles the Clown episode of Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, yeah.
And the son made Modern Family. So it's pretty good, funny
Yeah.
family.
Sure.
My dad, did a clown sketch on the Kevin Nealon show, and I'm here doing a podcast. So it's not the same thing.
Do you want to write anymore?
I do.
Where
I
are
still
you-
write.
where are you writing
This
now?
doesn't pay anything. Are you kidding me?
Where do you write?
I'm writing pilots and trying to
so
sell
you're writing
stuff.
your own pilots.
Yeah, I have to.
You're not on a established show.
I was
or
on
anything.
the old the reboot of Frasier. I worked on
Okay,
that.
you don't need to yell.
No, I have to. As a work, I have to yell. If my agent is watching, I need work.
But the new thing of Frasier seems to get a lot of heat.
Yeah, I guess it's on Paramount Plus. Do you watch anything on Paramount Plus? I don't watch anything on Paramount Plus.
But I'm still paying for it. I got to get rid of that.
Right.
It's Paramount Plus and something else.
Yeah, it's like somebody
Showtime.
telling you like there's a great vacation spot in the middle of Oaxaca, Mexico. It's like you should go there. I'm probably not gonna ever see it. I believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you. There's shows on Paramount Plus, but it's not something I automatically tune into. I tune into things that my friends tell me I got to watch and I got to see.
Right.
And I'm watching Fargo on FX. That's easy to find. I know where that is. Peaky Blinders, you can find it on your streamers.
Yeah.
I don't know where people are watching Frasier, but I hope so. It's good. It's funny. I'd love to see. It's great to see Kelsey Grammer back.
David Hyde Pierce, will he be on it?
I hope so. I hope he's not a regular, but I hope he comes back.
Will they have that same dog? Wasn't there a
Oh,
little
the
dog
dog's dead. That dog is dead. Moose.
Oh no.
His name. Yeah, he's dead.
Because
But-
it's been like 30 years, right?
Yeah, that dog is dead. So dead. But and so is John Mahoney. Both the dog and John Mahoney.
That's
gone.
right.
But the show is good, and the old cast will come back in bits and drabs, I guess. And there's a new cast. And it's good.
Oh, there's a new cast.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I'm working on that. I'm trying to make pilots and working on other things.
Good for
you know,
you.
trying to make life, trying to impress my kid, trying to tell him I'm still relevant. I still matter.
That's right.
He doesn't think so.
That's right.
I mean, he doesn't say so directly, but I think he thinks, like, what do you do, Dad? Why
I'm
are you-"
trying.
you know?
I'm trying to imagine sometimes, like if I was on the cast of SNL right now, how much prouder my son would be.
Yeah,
You know, and he'd come to the shows, and
yeah.
but you know that's not the case.
No, I go. I know, but it's sort of like cool. Do you ever have you taken him to Saturday Night Live to see
I
the
have.
show? Okay.
In fact, I even had him, during a Friday, come out through the doors to do the monologue, and I found some music to put to it.
Oh, great.
So it looks like he was hosting when he was 10.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Did he love it?
Yeah, he did love it.
Oh, that's great.
He did love it.
That is exciting. That show means a lot to me. It means a lot to my son. My son, at some point, who's a musician, writer, musician, and
Is it Paul McCartney?
my son is Paul McCartney.
Oh my God.
He fancies that someday he's also done improv. And like, maybe he could be on Saturday Night Live. He doesn't think about it really, but my wife always says, you should be on Saturday Night Live. And he goes, no, it'd be interesting if I was. Like,
If it's around still.
everybody fantasizes a little bit about,
Yeah. And that was the thing with me. Jay, I never even dreamed that I would be in that show. All I
Right.
wanted to do was just be a stand-up.
right.
And that came along really quickly. And I was in New York before any of my friends knew it.
Well,
I
how
didn't
do you-
have a chance to tell anybody.
But you're an actor too. Like, how do you get on Weeds? And Champs and you know,
Yeah.
how did that, what's that transition for being a stand-up to being an actor?
Well, I was doing stand-up at the Improv, and one of the owners, Mark Lanau, came in one day, and he was an actor,
Yeah.
and he
Thank
said,
God it's Friday. He was in Thank God
yeah,
It's
that's
Friday.
right, he
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And he sat down next to me. He goes, you ever think about, acting? And I said, not really. I just want to do stand-up. He goes, you should think about acting, because occasionally casting agents come into the back room and, they might be interested to have you come in and do a cold reading. And so maybe take some cold reading classes. And I said, yeah, maybe I'll do that. He goes, I teach a class.
Yeah.
But anyway, I started getting to a lot of, workshops around LA.
Yeah.
And one of them was working with cameras, in front of cameras. So I guess I did a lot of that. But I think naturally I was just an actor, because as a stand-up, you are acting.
Right.
You're selling your jokes. Although I never call them jokes. I just call them, situations, or because when you say it's a joke, and I see comics doing this all the time. That last joke was blah, blah, blah. I think, why are you like giving it away? It's like a magician telling somebody that was a trick.
Right. Well,
Didn't really happen.
we know it's a trick when we're watching magicians, and we know it's a joke when
Yeah.
we're watching comedians.
Yeah, you don't have to really pound it into our head, because then you're taken away from it was just a joke.
Right.
Okay, so your mother really didn't slip on, the puke.
Or maybe she did.
Or
Maybe
she
it's a
could
real
have.
story.
You
We don't know.
You never know.
We don't know. I feel like a good joke doesn't have to be true. A good
Never.
joke is just.
Although I had a roommate that you have to write from kind of what you know, and then you could bend it a little bit. But my roommate used to talk about how he was married and his ex-wife. I said, Dan, you've never been married, man. You don't even have an ex-wife. Yeah, they don't know that.
Well, that was my first act when I was doing stand-up, was as if I was 16 years old, and it was as if I was 65.
Yeah.
And I came out in a tuxedo and I talked about my ex-wife and how
Well, that's
horrible
funny.
it is, and my kids,
Yeah.
and they don't listen, and the
That's
kind of music they
hilarious.
listen to is such bullshit. And
Yeah.
it wasn't hilarious. That's the problem. It wasn't
Really?
hilarious.
It should
was
have been.
fun. It should have been hilarious. I should have honed it and made it better. But it's also so fake.
Yeah.
It's not. It's hard for the audience. It's like a skit as opposed to a comedy
Right,
persona.
right.
So you can't. I don't think you can trade on that forever, because it
That's
becomes very hard to be. Although Emo Phillips did it. I mean, so like there's some people who create a crazy persona and then carry it through. But I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
Yeah. There's some believability that Emo Phillips could be a real person. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
I was with Harlan Williams doing his podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and he was being Harlan Williams.
Yep.
And I've never seen like the real side of him. And then we were out in his backyard kind of chatting, and he was the real Harlan Williams. I go, wow, this guy is kind of really sensitive and, even-keeled guy. You know, he's not like that guy he plays.
Sweet fella. Yeah. Well, Canadian.
Is he?
I believe so.
I mean, not that he's a jerk when he's doing the character.
Yeah.
It's just he's kind of like, he just doesn't really kind of connect with what's going on in life.
Right. He's goofy. His character, his persona is a little bit more goofy than probably he is.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's all good. When comedians hone in on the right persona, I just think that's a miracle. I love that. And then I will watch forever them continue to do that, to lock in, no matter what it is. If it's Anthony Jeselnik being like a slow talking asshole, it's still great. Everything about it is great. I love that. Who are comedians that do you watch comedians now? Is there somebody that you love that's coming up?
It's hard for me to watch comedians because I'm always trying to analyze their joke structure and how they do this and that. But I am watching a lot of these comedians that sell out these big arenas, trying to understand why they have this appeal to so many people.
Yeah.
People like Nate Bargatze, who's more like me. He's kind of dry.
Yeah.
But yet he fills up these big venues. You know, Joe Coy is great.
Right. What do you think it is about Nate?
Nate Bargatze?
Yeah.
I think he's relatable.
Yeah.
I think all the people, the audience members are probably all about his age, and they all relate to him. And the husbands, who the wives are thinking, you do that, honey. You're like that too. You forget where the keys are, and you get in the car and you think you have the keys or whatever. So the audience really gets into it, and you don't have to be big or energetic or physical on stage. I've learned from watching that. It's just you don't have to go after the audience.
Right.
They'll come to you.
Yeah, he's having a decent time telling his stories on stage, and you're kind of enjoying that and enjoying the fact that he's making fun of himself a little bit as he goes, and making fun of his family, making fun of his wife and life situations. It's he's dry too, which is great.
Very dry.
Yeah, I love that.
There's so many new comics. When we kind of started out, there was only a certain amount of comics in these clubs. It was more of a novelty thing. And you knew everyone. You knew when they would take a pause between their punchline or a swallow.
Right.
You knew every joke they had or when they had a new one. And there was only they were only mostly Jewish, Irish.
Oh, yeah.
Black comics. But, after SNL, I never stopped doing stand-up, but it seemed like there was more of an influx of every culture in the clubs now. There's Pakistanis, the Chinese, everything doing stand-up, because I think everybody realized how accessible it was, and everybody realized how funny you could be,
right,
and how much you could make.
I guess so. I see my friend started doing open mics, and so I'm going to watch him do open mics, and there are some really funny people out there doing it, and they're really mostly not really funny people. There's like so many unfunny people doing it, and completely misjudging what the gig is.
So
just like some guys is getting up there and saying, bragging, like literally brag, not making a joke, just bragging. It's like, that's not comedy. That's exactly not what it is.
Or venting.
Yeah, venting. So you're doing what your friends think is cool in a car ride somewhere for an audience, and that's not the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
So they misjudge. But there are those who actually understand. You have to say something that the audience will understand, will relate to, even if you're trying to do the opposite of what is relatable, they're still gonna get it. I don't know. It's tricky, but yes, you can make a fortune doing it. But most people don't.
No,
most people don't. Most people aren't filling stadiums.
No,
and I don't know. It's a big world of comedy. I still love it. I can't get enough of it. Great comedians are a great thing. Amazing.
Yeah,
you're amazing. When you do stand-up comedy, it's great. You don't push it. You just do it. And you've been doing it like that forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a long time.
I mean, you landed on it very early.
Yeah, but I look at earlier tapes of myself, and I was much more relaxed and slower, and I thought, oh my God, how do you people listen to that? I mean, you put me to sleep.
No, it was great. It was
But now
great.
I up my energy a little
It was
bit.
also a different, speed than what other people were doing. So it's nice to have a different variation.
Yeah, that's true.
So somebody's Bobcat's coming up screaming, then has just talking.
Well, there's a guy, you talk about having a character like, what's his name? But he started out with that character, Bobcat Goldthwait, and he was almost kind of mentally handicapped. You couldn't understand a lot of things he was saying. And then he started having more things to say, political-wise.
Right.
And he realized that he couldn't keep doing that character, so he kind of slipped out of it very gradually.
Also, it must have been exhausting to do. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
If your act is just talking like,
Yeah.
for every joke, then I'm done. I'm done after 5 minutes. I don't have that kind of energy. But I'm glad you have new energy. That's good. I want to get to our listener mail.
Right.
Thank you for discussing all the stuff we've discussed. This is a new listener mail segment.
Now it's time for listener mail.
Maynard wrote in, he said, what is your sacred place that's not a holy place? In other words, if you could choose the last thing to see in this world, what would it be?
That is such a Maynard question.
Maynard, he thinks deeply.
The last place that I could see, does it have to be holy?
No, it's not. It's a sacred place to you. It doesn't have to be religiously holy, but it's just like a meaningful place to you.
I will tell you what that is, and it's very obscure.
Okay.
I used to live in Germany in a town called Kassel, for 1 year. And I was...
Did Kassel have a castle?
They did, actually.
Okay.
It was a beautiful castle.
All right.
And I was, I think, 7 at the time. And there was a wooded area down from my house. And they had a chestnut tree there. And there was chestnuts all over the ground inside of that green, like prickly case. And I would break those open. I would collect those chestnuts all the time. And it's, for some reason, I just love those chestnuts. And it has a great warm memory for me. So I would probably go there. But my brother just married this German girl, and they went to Kassel. And I said, would you go down the street and see if that chestnut tree is still there? And if it is, would you bring me a few chestnuts? Yeah. So that's, for some reason, that's kind of like a place I'd like to go back to.
Has he gone there? Are the chestnuts still there?
No, he didn't. I don't think he's been there yet. Maybe.
Okay.
But I do. The other thing I remember from that is smelling the wet forest after it rained.
Yeah.
Where you can smell it. And it doesn't rain that much out here, but when I'm somewhere, I could smell sometimes the wet leaves. I go, oh man, this reminds me of that chestnut tree area.
All right.
There's something about that really had a connection for me.
Visceral, emotional thing.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I wish I could say, like the Acropolis.
No.
Whatever.
I think the wet forest and chestnuts is pretty great. Maynard would be very happy with that answer.
I hope he is, man.
Yeah.
I hope he is.
I mean, for me, I think it's got to be the beach.
The beach?
Yeah.
Which beach?
Any beach where I'm standing next to Gary Shandling, angry, criticizing the sunset. If I can just sit there criticizing the sunset, maybe. Literally. I mean, we live in the West Coast. The Santa Monica Beach is just fine by me.
Yeah,
and watching the sunset at the beach is the greatest thing in the world.
When I first moved out here, I was going to watch the sunset every night with my roommate.
Yeah.
I mean, every night.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, because you never saw the sunset in the West like that.
Yeah.
Another place that I would like, you mentioned a beach, is this beach in St. Bart's. It was called La Petite Saline Beach. And it was just a cove with really white sand, great body surfing waves, and topless women everywhere. It was a French island.
That is a holy place.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of which, this is the last thing for this show. We're going to talk about a moment of joy.
A moment of joy.
What's something, a little thing, that just gives you a little joy? You can walk through the day and go like, I like that.
Aside from my family?
It could be your family. I mean, that's easy. That's an easy go-to, but sure. I mean, if it's like just going home and just hanging out with your family, that's enough.
Well, food is always a thing that makes me happy. Like cookies.
Right.
Homemade cookies.
Yeah.
But also, for the first time, I have a studio office in my home. And everything's in there, my guitars, my paintings, my computers, books. And so when I walk in there, I'm happy. When
you walk into a place like that, do you feel the urge to get things done? Or do you feel the urge to just veg and see what comes?
It's a little bit of both. Mostly to get things done.
Yeah.
Because I like to create stuff. You know, my son and my wife read tons. My wife has stacks of books on her nightstand. I have my cell phone there. That's it.
Right.
And my son is always reading. I mean, can't believe how much he reads. And they say to me, Dad, you never read, do you? I said, well, I'd rather be creating the book. I'd rather be writing the books that you read than reading the books.
Right.
But I mean, I think that I should be reading more because it is an escape.
It is. I'm auditory, so it's easier for me to listen to books.
Yeah, I've been doing that
than
too.
it is to read books, and for some reason I'm dyslexic. So reading a book takes a very long time, but hearing a book's like, okay, great.
So you're not dyslexic when you're hearing a book?
No,
it's not like
I don't rearrange the letters
Okay.
in what as I hear, which would be awesome if I did, but I don't do that.
or the
But
words, yeah.
But I'm actually listening to Gary Goldman's book, Misfit. Right
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know he wrote a book.
He wrote a book. It's very nice, and I'm just at the beginning, but clearly he's a misfit. I don't want to give it no spoilers,
It's a stand-up, right?
but Gary Goldman's a misfit. Yes, he's a stand-up.
Yeah.
He's a very funny stand-up.
I heard he's funny. I've never seen his act.
Yeah, he's good. He's,
Yeah,
he
he's
has
one
a
of the
really
guys.
good special that he did with Judd Apatow called Depresh. That was
Yeah.
just detailing his several years of deep depression,
Really?
and
That's
combined
funny.
with his stand-up act.
That's
it's like-
funny.
yeah, it was not funny. It was serious and sad, but his stand-up act was great. And then we cut into him recovering from depression. It was interesting.
I like the way they call all of these 1-hour shows specials.
Yes.
You know, they used to be special on HBO because there's only like one
Right.
every year of somebody like George Carlin or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's like everybody's on their 5th special. Now, which
So-
one is more special than the other one?
You know, special, even network television specials, the same specials all the time. So I don't know if these specials are special.
That's like breaking news. Is there anything that's not breaking?
That's true. The
Even though
banner's
you-
on 24/7 is breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news, breaking news. And, you know, you just talked about that story, an hour ago.
It's very upsetting. I think the breaking news should be, A, breaking news should have its own real breaking news thing, and B, there shouldn't be a theme for breaking news. There shouldn't
that's
be a
right.
musical theme.
That's right.
If it's really breaking news, they should just get right on the mic and
Yeah.
say,
Is that breaking music too?
the world is ending. You don't
Yeah.
want to go, bum, ba, bum, 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 bum. The world is ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate the way they tease the audience too. They'll say, you know, and after this commercial, a presidential candidate was almost assassinated. Oh, you want to tell us the name of the person when we come back? So
Yeah.
we'll stay here? Is that what you're doing?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
very sad. It's very sad. But my wife loves it. She's addicted to watching the news.
Uh-huh.
It's fine. Kevin, you've been a great guest for the second time. The first time we've had a guest twice on the show.
Ah,
So
thank you. Well,
I'm honored that you came back twice.
I'm honored to be here.
And thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And this is great. We'll talk again.
You bet.
All right.
And scene.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Kevin Nealon, everybody. He was awesome. I want to thank Kevin for being here. I want to thank you for listening. And if you have any comments or suggestions or questions for my guest, please write at dbawjk@gmail.com. That's Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan, dbawjk. And I will be thrilled to correspond with you and take your questions and try to use this platform to grow closer with you. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be alone.